The Diary of Anne Frank, Part 6. For nearly 2 years, Anne Frank, her parents and sister, and 4 other people have been hiding in the sealed-off back-dam office building, the secret annex. Anne has recorded all her thoughts and feelings in her diary, which she addresses as Kitty.
Wednesday, the 1st of March, 1944. Dear Kitty, my own affairs have been pushed into the background by a burglary. When Mr. Van Daan went to Krahler's office at 7:30 as usual, he saw that the communicating glass doors and the office doors were open, and that there was a terrible mess in the main office. There's been a burglar, he thought to himself at once, and to satisfy himself he went straight downstairs to look at the front door, felt the Yale lock, and found everything closed. Oh, then both Peter and Ellie must have been very slack this evening, he decided, and went upstairs without worrying much about the open doors and the untidy office. This morning, Peter knocked at our door early and came with the not-so-pleasant news that the front door was wide open. He also told us that the projector and Krahler's new portfolio had both disappeared from the cupboard. What must have happened is that the thief had a skeleton key, because the lock was quite undamaged. He must have crept into the house quite easily and closed the door behind him, hidden himself when disturbed by Mr. Van Daan, and when he departed, fled with his spoils, leaving the door open in his haste. Who can have our key? Why didn't the thief go to the warehouse? Might it be one of our own warehousemen? And would he perhaps betray us, since he certainly heard Van Daan, and perhaps even saw him? It's all very creepy, because we don't know whether this same burglar may not take it into his head to visit us again. Or perhaps it gave him a shock to find that there was someone walking about the house. Saturday, the 4th of March, 1944. This is the first Saturday for months and months that hasn't been boring, dreary, and dull. And Peter is the cause. This morning, I went to the attic to hang up my apron, when Daddy asked whether I'd like to stay and talk some French. I agreed. First we talked French, and I explained something to Peter. Then we did some English. Daddy read out loud to us from Dickens, and I was in the 7th heaven, because I sat on Daddy's chair very close to Peter. I went downstairs at 11 o'clock. When I came upstairs again at 11:30, he was already waiting for me on the stairs. We talked until 1:45. If, as I leave the room, he gets a chance, after a meal, for instance, and if no one can hear, he says, "Goodbye, Anne. See you soon." Oh, I'm so pleased. I wonder if he's going to fall in love with me after all. Anyway, he's a very nice fellow, and no one knows what lovely talks I have with him. Tuesday, the 14th of March. Perhaps it would be entertaining for you, though not in the least for me, to hear what we're going to eat today. As the charwoman is at work downstairs, I'm sitting on the Van Daan's table at the moment. I have a handkerchief soaked in some good scent, brought before we came here, over my mouth and held against my nose. You won't gather much from this, so let's begin at the beginning. The people from whom we obtained food coupons have been caught, so we just have our 5 ration cards and no extra coupons and no fats. As both Mip and Kourpus are ill, Ellie hasn't time to do any shopping, so the atmosphere is dreary and dejected, and so is the food. From tomorrow, we shall have not a scrap of fat, butter, or margarine left. We can't have fried potatoes to save bread for breakfast any longer, so we have porridge instead. And as Mrs. Van Daan thinks we're starving, we've bought some full cream milk under the counter. Our supper today consists of a hash made from kale which has been preserved in a barrel. Hence the precautionary measure with a handkerchief. It's incredible how kale can stink when it's a year old. The smell in the room is a mixture of bad plums, strong preservatives, and rotten eggs. Ugh. The mere thought of eating that muck makes me feel sick. Added to this, our potatoes are suffering from such peculiar diseases that out of 2 buckets of pomme de terre, 1 whole one ends up on the stove. We amuse ourselves by searching for all the different kinds of diseases. and have come to the conclusion that they range from cancer and smallpox to measles. Oh no, it's no joke to be in hiding during the 4th year of the war. If only the whole rotten business were over. Thursday the 23rd of March. A plane crashed near here yesterday. The occupants were able to jump out in time by parachute. The machine crashed onto a school, but there were no children there at the time. The result was a small fire and 2 people killed. The Germans shot at the airmen terribly as they were coming down. The Amsterdammers, who saw it, nearly exploded with rage and indignation at the cowardliness of such a deed. We, I'm speaking of the ladies, nearly jumped out of our skins. I loathe the blasted shooting. I often go upstairs after supper nowadays and take a breath of fresh evening air. I like it up there, sitting on a chair beside Peter and looking outside. Van Daan and Dussel make very feeble remarks when I disappear into his room. Anne's second bedroom, they call it. Or, is it suitable for young gentlemen to receive young girls in semi-darkness? Peter shows amazing wit in replies to these so-called humorous sallies. For that matter, Mummy too is somewhat curious and would love to ask what we talk about, if she wasn't secretly afraid of being snubbed. Peter says it's nothing but envy on the part of the grown-ups, because we're young and we don't pay much attention to their spitefulness.